Great, and we're rolling, so could you give me your names, please?
My name is Nina Bussink, student number 1470371.
And I'm Tiegen Lee Rouse, and my student number is 1485764.
And we are doing the scene of Fatal Light by Chloe Moss, scene 1.
What happens now?
If you call the number on this, then they'll be able to help.
Oh, you're shaking. What'll they do?
They can put you in touch with the right people.
The right people?
The prison governor, legal representation, the coroner.
Do you have to do this much?
No, not sometimes, only sometimes.
Must be really difficult.
Not as hard as I can't even imagine.
Shouldn't you be doing this on your own? Is it normal, this?
It depends.
What on?
Numbers. We're a bit pushed today.
Oh, I thought they always had to send two. I thought that was the law. I don't know why, I suppose I've just seen it off the telly. It doesn't seem very fair. How old are you?
I'm 21. Now, the next steps are you'll have to, you'll have to formally identify Julie's body.
Her name's Janine.
I'm so sorry.
They said she'd be safe. Was there... Did she leave anything? A note?
I don't know.
So there might have been.
There might have been, but they didn't say. If you call this number...
Did they all start screaming right away? Or shouting, "Do you think I don't care?"
No. I think you're in shock.
Shock? I'm not in shock. I'm not shocked. She only got 4 years. Did you ever meet her?
No. They ring the local station so they can get to you quickly.
Right. Because it's a long way to get here from the prison, isn't it? It takes me 4.5 hours door to door. I get 2 buses into Euston, and then a 2.5-hour train journey, then a 30-minute bus journey. It'd be quicker if I got the tram into Euston. I haven't got the tram in years. I'm claustrophobic.
Do you want me to get you something? A glass of water or something?
A glass of water? No. No, I don't want a glass of water. She's got a little girl. My granddaughter. She's here with me. It's just the 2 of us now. I'm not sure. When you go now, I'm not sure what to do.
Is there anybody I can ring for you?
No. No, thank you. Do you... Will you come back?
No. But if you ring this number, then they'll be able to
The
help
number? Yes, we've been over this. It's just my head.
Excellent, thank you, Nina and Tiegen. So just before we get to the Q&A, we're just going to replay about 1 minute of the scene, but we're going to just explore spontaneity by, I'm going to give you a factor now to change it. And what I want to do is I want to explore what the scene looks like and how you respond, as if the police officer has been told before she's come to this job that she's got another important job lined up, so she needs to get in, deliver the news and get straight off, so she's in a bit of a hurry. Can we see a minute of the scene with that influencing how you play it?
Yeah, of course.
Where do you want to start that from? Just the beginning.
Yeah, let's go from the
Yeah.
beginning.
So what happens now?
If you call this number, then they'll be able to help.
Oh, you're shaking. What'll they do?
They can put you in touch with the right people.
The right people?
The prison governor, legal representation, the coroner.
Do you have to do this much?
Only sometimes.
It must be really difficult.
I mean, it's not as hard as I
Shouldn't you have someone with you? Is it normal this, doing it on your own?
It depends.
What on?
Numbers, we're a bit pushed today.
Oh, I just thought they had to send two. I thought that was the law. I don't know why. I suppose I saw it off the telly. Doesn't seem very fair. How old are you?
I'm 21. Now, the next steps are you'll have to formally identify Julie's body.
Her name's Janine.
I'm so sorry.
They said she'd be safe.
Great, thank you. That's enough. So just a couple of questions and then we're done. So first of all, Tiegen, can you tell me what's this scene about?
So the scene is about a police officer having just explained to Maggie, who's my character, that her daughter has committed suicide. And she's there to tell her that she needs to then go over to the prison and formally identify the body. But you can tell that Maggie isn't taking it very well. She needs the closure. She's trying to stall the situation that's going on and keep the police officer as close to her as possible to keep that comfort.
Great, and you're quite a young actor and the character's a lot older than you, so how can you relate or what can you bring to this character that's a bit older than you?
Okay, so Maggie, because it's her daughter, I see Maggie personally as like my mum. I've been in a very similar situation to Maggie's daughter, obviously not as severe, but given that circumstance at that period of time, I saw my mum get quite upset, and she also needed closure of other people. She got annoyed at herself, she got annoyed at other people, and she kind of watched me pass away in a sense, so she was very in a big grieving stage at that moment in time, so I feel like I can take what I've experienced from my mum and bring it into Maggie's character.
And what in this scene alone, what do you think your character Maggie wants?
I think she wants closure. She wants someone to comfort her, and she doesn't want to be by herself. The police officer is quite young, and so is her daughter. I would say they're around the same age, so having someone sit in front of her similar age to her daughter, I have a feeling she'll be like, I want you to stay here and comfort me. I need you to stay with me. My daughter isn't here anymore, but you are. Please help me through this. I don't want you to leave me by myself.
And can you give me any examples of tactics that she uses to get that?
I would say when she seems very mothering, so she's very careful and asks a lot of questions, like as to care for her, about her shaking hands, and especially at the end she gets up to try and hold her very tightly, and you can tell that she's very uncomfortable with the situation, but she wants to be like passionate but can't, and she just wants to hold on to someone so young for one last moment in time before she fully has to accept the fact that her daughter has passed away.
Thanks. Nina, so there was a few different scripts you could have picked, but you picked this script. Why this one?
I thought it was quite different to the other scripts. It kind of, I think at a glance, it could be quite seen as like a boring or a simple script. It's the scene after she finds out, and generally in a lot of kind of movies and films you get that kind of cliched scene, the police officer at the door, the family finds out, they're upset. But this is the scene after that you don't see that often, and I felt like, given the context, it could be quite interesting to play in terms of what they're feeling and what has come before and what comes after the scene. So there was a lot of possibilities to play around with it, so then we played around with it, and I really I clicked straight away with it.
Great. So you could have played either of two characters, but you chose the police officer. Why?
I felt like I related to their feelings, the police officer. Not that I am a police officer, but I've been in similar situations in various jobs where you're kind of thrown in at the deep end. The police officer's 21 in the script, and so assuming that, she's probably just come out of training, she doesn't have much experience, and so she's just thrown into the deep end. They're very tight on staff, so she's just by herself. She was to inform this lady of this horrible incident, and so I can really understand how that might be a very awkward situation, and you can feel the lack of experience, and the human part in her will want to empathise and give some sympathy and support for the woman, but she doesn't have the tools to do it.
Great. So tell me a little bit about the objective that you chose to play in this scene and unpack it a bit, why you chose that as the particular objective.
I felt like the best one for us, we kind of went through a couple to start with just to see what fit best, but the best one for me that I decided on was just the police officer, just she wants to do her job right, and it fitted for me, having seen that she was 21, she's new out of school, she just wants to do her best, and so she's sitting here tight, she's very nervous, she doesn't know what to do, she doesn't have the experience to deal with it. And so all she wants to do is just do her job and then leave. And she just wants it to all be okay, but it's sometimes not that easy.
And she's encountering Maggie as a bit of an obstacle. So explain how how that works.
Maggie in the scene is very questioning. Like Tiegen said, she's quite mothering. She's asking why she's shaking, why she's the only person in the scene if there's not another person there. And so she just keeps asking these questions. It's like she's stalling her, and it's asking very personal questions. Generally in a scene, a police officer offers the information and the support, but here it's the other way round, and so Maggie's asking the questions about the police officer, and so the police officer doesn't have a chance to let her know the information and then leave and just do her job. And so she keeps kind of popping in, and so her kind of tactics to go around that is to kind of keep mentioning the card and the number until it seems that Maggie gets the idea, and then the police officer leaves.
Great, and I'm going to ask this to the pair of you so you can kind of answer together or separate, but why is this an important play to be shown today?
I think especially because the scene is not the kind of cliched kind of first scene, it's that one after, it's the very special, sensitive moments that someone might just easily skip over.
Of course, and it's quite important to see the grieving stage from being by yourself, because sometimes people feel the need that they need more support, like the police officer wanted to try and give the support, but she wasn't taking it in. It's very important to understand the concept of grief.
Yeah, I also think the police officer is like I've said many times, she's 21, she's just straight out of training. And so I think that's very important for this working world at the moment, and for women being able to take on the role of a police officer. I think for a very long time it was just men who were allowed, and so it's just in the last 20, 30 years or so that women have been able to do that, so it's very important. And so she's trying her best to do her job, but it's still difficult. And so people might feel like, oh, well, this is why we didn't, or whatever the cliche is to say that. But it's very important to see this because it's a stage, it's a work in progress, a job like this. It's a very important job.
Great, thank you. Well, I've heard enough, so I'm happy with your answers. Is there anything that, and you don't have to answer if there's not, but is there anything that you wanted to tell me but you've not been asked? And if there's not, no worries.
I think one thing that stood out to me as well, it was kind of an interesting situation how her daughter who's committed suicide has just been sentenced to prison, and so the police officer might not agree or feel so comfortable doing this job because she's done a crime. We don't know the crime, but she's been sentenced to prison, and so it's a tricky one, because how do you comfort this person when you know that their daughter has done something wrong and she has then regretted those decisions and it's inflicted on you?
Yeah, in the same way that the prison justice system has caused her daughter to commit suicide, for a police officer to then come over and be like, yeah, unfortunately your daughter has passed away in prison. Maggie could also see that as quite an angry way, but like, which is where we said before we could play around with different ideas and emotions. I could have been a very angry and quite stubborn towards the police officer, but I wasn't.
Yeah, I think it does really reflect on the situations of prisons. There's been kind of a couple of things in the last year where there's just awful situations in prison and kind of rise in self-harm and suicide and all sorts of atrocious things, because they are people at the end of the day, and so I think that really highlights in this scene. But it's a complicated one because I'm a police officer, so I don't want to sympathise naturally. Yeah.
Great, thank you, you two.